Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on business continuity powered by Backup as a Service. My name is Ashley Sebastian, and I'll be your moderator for the session. I'm excited to introduce you to a couple of experts. Joining us today, we have Matt Scully, Senior Director of Channel Enablement at Kaseya. Matt has deep experience helping organizations strengthen their data protection strategies. We've got Jordan Takrouri from from NetGain. He is a remote monitoring and management administrator who specializes in making technical concepts clear and practical for business leaders. They're going to guide us through business continuity and a smarter approach for data protection for small to mid-sized businesses.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. And nice to meet you, Jordan.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, cool. So me and Ashley are old friends. I think we did a show. It was last year in
Last
Lexington.
year.
One of my first
Mm-hmm.
times in Lexington, by the way.
Yeah.
And I had a great time. And you guys were a great host. I hope we could do that venue again sometime. So, as Ashley said, we're going to be talking about a lot of different risks that are out there, and what it really does has to come down to is IT in the IT industry. I mean, what we're seeing is that today's businesses are so dependent on IT. And matter of fact, when I first started into the IT industry in 2015, it was around a $22 billion industry. Right now, it's a $4.9 trillion industry. So that means things are growing. And what's happening is that business of all sizes need help navigating through these crazy, crazy times. There's a lot of risk that's available. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of security concerns. And when we talk about what managed services, companies like NetGain, and NetGain is in what they call a managed services industry, and it has that 4.9 trillion. Okay, managed services is 549 billion of it, and 250 of that is spent on cybersecurity. So again, having these types of webinars where we can go out there and educate the public, let them know what's the latest and the greatest, what do they need to protect themselves with, and how to protect themselves is really, really valuable. So I'm thanking you guys all for joining us today. So let's take a look at what some of these risks are. Next. So this is an interesting one. Okay, so I have been doing this particular presentation for, well, not the specifics as far as details are concerned, but Allianz GI. Okay, so basically, what Allianz GI, what they do every year, they get around 3,200 risk managers, CIOs, CEOs. Okay, they get them together and they ask them, and from over 92 countries, what are things that keep you up at night? In other words, what are the top global risks that are out there? And every year it kind of changes. I would say when we started in 2015, it was probably about maybe 5 or 6 of them are on it. But as the world changes and as we get more evolved, it's important to know what these things are for the current year. So, Jordan, if you could do me a favor, I'm not sure if you could see the screen that well, but can you just read off those risks for me?
Yeah, no. So we have cyber incidents, business interruption, natural catastrophes, changes in legislation and regulation. That one looks a little tiny, but it looks like it says micro or macro.
Macroeconomic developments, yep.
All right, and then fire, explosion, climate change, political risks, and violence, marketing developments, and shortage of skilled workforce.
Yeah, and you know what? When you look at this, as I said, a lot of these are repeat offenders that are on lists from the previous 10 plus years. I will tell you this, okay? Out of the 10 that you just went and you stated there, business interruption was the number one that was on the list for about 5, 6 years straight. And that's because people are concerned that they're going to go to business, they're going to go to work one day, and their IT infrastructure is going to be down, and they're not going to be able to go and work. And that's where you saw companies like ours kind of step up and say it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. And that's when the world shifted from going to like Staples, Office Depot, Amazon, and buying backup devices to now where you have to have what we call business continuity devices, meaning in a sense that you have the ability to get up and continue to work should your system go down. So, matter of fact, if you were to go and look at the next slide there, all right, you will see out of those 10 risks that you are the 10 concerns that keep people up at night, 6 of them can be mitigated through working with a company like NetGain. All right. And those are cyber incidents, interruption, natural catastrophes, changes in legislation and regulation, fires and explosion. And of course, the big one is shortage of skilled workforce. And out of all of them, for me, the one that really stands out, which is the one on the least, is the shortage of skilled workforce, because what's happening is that companies are hiring people to go and just manage their IT, and they really don't necessarily know the ins and outs. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault because, again, this space that we're in is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. There's new security updates here and there. You got to go to different conferences to understand what's the latest and the greatest that's out there. And companies are not taking advantages of some of the stuff like Netgain is doing to provide educational opportunities for them to know their business and help sustain it. So let's take a look at some of these, and we'll be relatively brief on this. Panera Bread. Jordan, do you ever go to Panera Bread?
I've been there a few times.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. Let's just say you go with a family of five. It's a big family friendly place, right? And you go and you order, let's say 60, $75. That seems like to be a number to feed a family of five. And you go to pay, and they look at you and they say, "I'm sorry, Jordan, but our systems are down. We can only take cash." Now it's 2025. Not a lot of people are having their wallet filled with cash. Everyone's using a debit card or a credit card. What would you do?
I would leave. Yeah, no, I never carry cash on me unless I'm traveling the country or something.
Right. And if your kids are complaining, or when they really wanted the food that at Panera Bread, let's just say it's one of those awesome bagels, the French toast ones, right?
Oh, yeah.
You could go to a ATM, right, and which could be 3-4 miles away, or you could go to another place that's open that's close by there. Whatever the case may be. But what's going to happen, Jordan, is that next time you get the kids in the car or whatever the case may be, and you go, you're going to think twice about going to Panera Bread because it provided an extra layer of a trip for you. It provided an inconvenience, and it's going to put a bad taste in your mouth. It's like, you go to a bar and you order, a couple drinks with about 5 or 6 friends of yours, and all of a sudden the waiter or waitress tells you that the systems are down, and unfortunately you can't take a credit card. Are you so? What are you going to go to an ATM and then find it and come back? You're never going to go to that place again. So my point in telling you this is that you don't necessarily know the impact it could have on your business, because there's no metric saying, okay, we're not going to go to Panera Bread again because it caused a major inconvenience for us on it. Next. This one's interesting. Omni Hotels. Has anyone here been to Nashville?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want anyone to start thinking about bachelor or bachelorette parties here, but when I went to Nashville, one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever stayed at is at the Omni. All right, and it was interesting. It's a show that we go to every single year, and I get out of the Uber, and I see this line that's going all the way out to Broadway. Now I got to tell you, this was in June. All right, I don't know if you know about Nashville in June, but it's hot. So I'm in line. It's like literally like going to a wake or a funeral line, right? And I'm in this line that's outside. I am in sweats because I just traveled, and so I'm just completely sweating. And so is the person in front of me, and the person in the back of me, and the person in the back of that person. And what happened was that the Omni Hotel, their systems were down. All right. So when you were to go and check in, they had to do every single thing manually. All right. So you're like you've already prepaid your hotel stay. So it took literally like 45 minutes to get to the front desk. When you got to the front desk, you had to wait another 15 minutes for an employee to go and walk you upstairs, okay, and use their card to get you in and out because their systems were down. All right. So this caused a major, major catastrophe to the point where the Omni Hotel, which had this conference for literally 7 years, after that, they don't have this conference anymore. They moved it to a Dallas location because of what happened at the Omni. I'm not saying that is the biggest deal in the world, but it was $1 million deal to a company. It's just because of the fact that, again, once your systems go down, okay, it's going to impact your business. Next. All right, Jordan, I'm going to need your help here. Lincoln College, based in Lincoln, Illinois, and it is named after.
I imagine President Lincoln.
I mean, Ashley, you could not have given me a better co-host here. Thank you for this. I mean, this is great, right?
Nice.
So Lincoln College in Lincoln, Illinois, named after Abe Lincoln, in December of 2022. Okay, their systems get shut down. So their systems get shut down, and all of a sudden they had nothing to back it up, and they couldn't do any fundraising, and they couldn't do any recruiting. So they finally got their systems up and running by March of 2023. At that point, it was too late. This is a 157-year institution. They had to shut their doors down because of this cyber attack. Okay. That is business interruption. Business interruption is that you can't do work because of an external factor, and that external factor was a cyber incident. This was the first large university had to shut down because of a ransomware attack. Next. So, natural catastrophes. What do you think are some natural catastrophes? Fires, floods, tornadoes, all of which, right? All the stuff that can happen. But what you need to understand is that if you are on-prem, okay, meaning in the sense that if you have all of your data on your site and at your location, what happens with a natural catastrophe? What are you to do with your data? Next. And that's a really really important thing. So one of the things that we saw, okay, at Datto was that natural catastrophes and fires were only 6% of why companies used a Datto. Only 6%. And so we did our research there, and we started thinking the reason being was the biggest one, which is, I guess you could put it into natural catastrophes, would be human error. All right. And again, at that particular point, when we were becoming more and more technology and we become more dependent on it, we're vulnerable to what can the downfalls of it can be. So yes, natural catastrophes. I understand it's a global concern, but the big one in here should be human error because that's important. Now, what's the answer to this? Is you have to work with NetGain to get your data off site. Put it into a cloud. Make sure that you have geo redundancy with that cloud. Because what happens is that all of a sudden, somebody is smoking a joint in the bathroom and it sets off the fire alarms, and next thing you know, it's water is everywhere, and all your server and your system and everything's down over some stupid idiot trying to get high, right? So these things do happen, and they happen in regional as well. But you need to have these conversations. Tornadoes, stuff like that can wipe out an entire company, because the big, huge stat from Gartner is that 68% of companies that suffer a major data loss, they don't come back. They don't come back. Next. Yes, this is a really important one because it's something that I think that is probably the biggest one, which I indicated earlier, is, we are becoming more and more dependent on technology. But the problem is that a lot of companies don't want to spend money on maximizing the output of technology. I can give you a great example. My mom loves the Beatles, right? So I bought her this $250 Alexa. I don't even know what it's called, an Echo Dot. I don't know what it was, but it was $250, right? She only uses it to listen to the Beatles. Now, Jordan, we know what else Alexa can do, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, could, alarms. What else?
Shopping list, reminders, all kinds of things.
Exactly. All right. Turning off the lights when you leave the room, whatever
Smart
the case
home.
may be, right? All this stuff, but she only uses it for one function of it because she doesn't know better, right? And so when you're taking, Sally from payroll and saying that you're the IT director because they know how to set up a Xbox, you're really not doing your company any justice. So the shortage of a skilled workforce screams the need that you got to work with companies like NextGain, because the fact NetGain because the fact that they are the ones they are the ones that that attend conferences. They know what's the latest and the greatest that's out there. They have the skill sets. They have the tools to help you through these times. And you know what? When you take a look at salary versus what you're paying for NetGain, you're going to find out not only are you getting a better service, a much more knowledgeable service, but you're also saving money because you don't realize how much money you could be losing by not working with the right person. So that's a very, very big one. Gartner, again, IT research company, they predict that a lack of IT or human failure is going to be responsible for over half of significant cyber incidents by 2026. That's a big, big number. All right. And when you look at the average data loss or cost, okay, through these cyber incidents, it's literally 20% higher if it's working with internal IT versus working with an MSP. So you got to start looking at being much more smarter on how you manage your IT. And again, Jordan, think about some of the other technology rather than just setting up computers that companies are using IT for.
Oh yeah, no, the sky's the limit. It
Yeah, I
really
mean,
is.
payroll, your CRM, even marketing engines, whatever the case may be. People are using technology more and more, in departments across the board, rather than just, okay, we're going to set up Microsoft Office. Next. And compliance. Okay. Compliance is an interesting one because what we're seeing right now is companies that are getting um, their compliance in order for them to be underwrite for cyber insurance claims or for cyber insurance policies, whatever the case may be. Um, so compliance is for legal protection, building customer trust. It's for building efficiency, risk mitigation, reputation. Having your office or having your outfit be compliant, it puts you in a much, much better position in order for, again, to get policies, to get loans, whatever the case may be. These are questions that these guys are asking to make sure that you are running an efficient office, that you're doing everything you can to protect yourself from these types of cybersecurity attacks. Again, working with NetGain can get you there. It can absolutely get you there because they have the skills, they know the questions to ask, and you'd be surprised on some of the stuff. I mean, there was that one famous incident where the Hawaii, where they sounded an alarm because they thought Hawaii was getting attacked, and it turns out it was nothing, but they put a picture of the guy that was in front of the computer, and in that picture that went to every publication in the Associated Press, he had his post-it note that put his username and his password right there, right? So I mean, it just goes to show you, how careless we can be when it comes to running a very uncompliant office. So again, making sure you have the right framework in place, NetGain can get you there. All right, so this is important because what I usually do is I talk about some different types of breaches that have happened in the local area. When you look at Central Kentucky Radiology, that's just one of many. I mean, I just picked this one because this was the first one that came up. But there was a breach, and basically, what happened in the breach was your names, address of their customers, date of birth, social security numbers, date of medical service, and service charge. All this stuff kind of just sounds like, oh well, that sucks. It's not bad. It's not like they're going into my bank account. No, what they're doing is that they're taking this information and they're putting it into the dark web. And that dark web creates a profile where they could go and they could sell that to other companies that are looking for people of the specific financial access, or they're taking their stuff. They could be using you to go and get the social security numbers, whatever the case, be able to get tickets, set up accounts. All this information that they do in the dark web, nothing good happens there, right? All the stuff that they're doing there is to go and provide some sort of breach on you. And when they go, it's not just getting 10 names, they're getting thousands and thousands of names. And again, they don't have to hit every one of those thousands in order to be profitable. It could be 10 people on there. We get this all the time where we get people that are reaching out to us and saying, okay, you guys sell to managed service providers. I have a list of managed service providers that are all over the country, and we can be very, very granular on all their information on there. Stuff like that originates onto the dark web. Jordan, any thoughts on the dark web, or have you heard anything on it?
Yeah, no, I've heard quite a bit on it. It's actually pretty scary what's on there. If you ever do take a look on there, which I have personally not directly done it, but back whenever I was in school, they gave us a whole course on what is in there. Showed us the whole iceberg example of like what
Yes.
the internet is and where where all the information really is. But it's a pretty unique and interesting thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, we have
What
this.
we think the internet is like 4% of what the internet actually is, and then there's like a whole dark web. We did a webinar on this in October of last year. It was really good. I can share the link with everyone if you want to check it
Awesome.
out.
No, you're absolutely right. Again, it's where the bad people play, you know, and one of the things that they do is what they call ransomware bots or ransomware as a service. So let's just say someone was a bad person and they were looking to make some money real quick. What they could do is that they could go and get one of these ransomware as a service. They can go and attack a company, and it really doesn't take too much to find out some of these companies and how vulnerable they are. But anyway, they just give you the ransomware as a service, you attack it, and the only thing that the hackers want is 40% of what you make on it. So you don't even have to show up with money in your pocket, right? You don't have to spend a lot of money to get this stuff. You just have to go and execute it and then go and share what you make from it. So it's really, really scary. I mean, the city of Atlanta got hit, I want to say it was 2018. And it was because two guys from the Middle East read a report that said that the city of Atlanta's IT infrastructure is weak. I use a different word, but I'm being nice here. You know, that it's weak and it's vulnerable. And all they had to do was just go ahead and just put a couple things in there, find out an admin account, got in there, and literally took $13 million from the city of Atlanta. But the real crime was that it was over $55 million in downtime on it. And that's what these organizations do. They look for vulnerabilities in IT infrastructure and then they attack. Why do you think it's happening a lot with schools or with hospitals, right? So think about that, Jordan. You know, think about like if you were, you know, representing schools and the schools meet every, I don't know, 2, 3 months to approve what's the latest and the greatest in technology. You know, there may be some vulnerable times that they can attack.
Oh yeah, for
You know,
sure. Well, and it doesn't help that sometimes you do have to spend a little more than necessary, or a lot of people don't want to spend the money to get the latest and greatest to help remediate a lot of those types of vulnerabilities.
yeah. I mean, look at West Minneapolis. They got hit in March of 2023. It's disgusting what these hackers did. These hackers went and they made a video, okay, like a Vimeo or a YouTube video of all these kids that had problems, all right, and said, "Hey, we're going to go and release this if you don't pay the ransom." I mean, you're talking about kindergartners, first graders, any kid that had medical records, abusive parents, problems at home, behavioral issues, all this stuff they were going to release in a video. I mean, so again, this is just some really, really scary, scary stuff. And that's why you need to be protected. Next, please. So this right here, this is the NIST framework. This has been around for a while, but it became, I would say, much more needed right during COVID. And the reason being is that when we had that shift from brick and mortar to work from home, you saw kids playing. What is it? Help me out here, Jordan. You're better at this. Roblox.
Yeah, no, Roblox is pretty cool, man. Don't
M-
sleep on Roblox.
How about Minecraft? Right.
Yeah, both are great.
Okay. So your kids are using their parents' computers to play these games, right? Now it just creates an easy way for these hackers to navigate through this. Matter of fact, January 30th, 2020, okay, the first American case of COVID, phishing attacks went up 64%. So what you saw the industry kind of do is just like, hey, we have this framework. Let's take a look at this framework on how you can truly protect yourself. And what this framework is just best practices in protocols, right? So, it's identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Where you saw the majority of IT security companies were in that protect side, right? But the hackers, they're not thinking about just, okay, we're in protect and that's it. They're thinking about how they could bypass the protect side and get into the, get through there, right? Into the detect. And it takes, and if they bypass the protect side and you don't have anything to protect you there, okay, it could be literally 150 days before you get detected, and then that could take you almost 20 months to recover on it. Because if you're only in that protect, if you're only hanging out in that protect tab, and that's how you're protecting yourself there, then you know what, you're going to be in trouble. Because again, once they bypass it, it could take a while for it to be detected, and then again 20 months to recover, and by that time the damage could be done. Next. All right, so this is kind of what from I'll be really quick on this one, but this is from a hacker's perspective. So what we do is we see the technology on top, right, of the NIST, all right, and then the second half is the people, but the whole thing is a process. So Jordan, did you go to college?
Yes.
Okay, where did you go to school, if you don't mind me asking?
Chattanooga State.
Awesome. All right. So Chattanooga State, did you play any sports clubs or anything like that?
No, I quit the whole sports thing in high school.
All right. Well, let's just say you play baseball. All right. You'll work with me on that. Okay. All right. So now you're working for a company. You're 26, 30 years old. You're working for a company, and a hacker wants to get into that company. So what do? Okay. They go down to the reconnaissance side, okay, on the lower left. The weaponization. How are they going to attack? Well, we know this kid Jordan works at this company. We want to get into that company. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on his LinkedIn. All right. We see that he went to Chattanooga State. All right. So how can we use that to our advantage? All right. So what they do is that they send you a link saying, "Hey Jordan, a couple buddies of ours that played for Chattanooga State baseball team, we're getting together in a bar at Lexington. We'd love for you to join us. Hey, click on the link to find out who's coming." So you go and you click on the link, and guess what? That's the boom. That's the boom right there, that red dot. Okay. And how well you are protected after that, okay, is going to determine how well you're going to be able to save your company. Because if you're not protected after that boom, excuse me, then they're going to take command and control. And then what they're going to do is they're going to do an action on the objective, which is usually money. Next. All right. So this is what we do. Okay. We work with CISA. I know NetGain does as well. So CISA is just an organization that basically links the government, all right, and businesses out there on how to protect themselves. Okay. What's nice about CISA is that it's a trusted source. Now, their main things, okay, are that one, you need to patch up your IT infrastructure. You completely need to make sure that everything is up to date as far as security measures, everything like that. Okay. Number two, maintain and identify your IT assets. I'm talking everything from the computer to the printer to the fax machine to the phone, whatever the case may be. Make sure you have a strong inventory of that. And then lastly is make sure you have a backup on that. That is the most important thing that they say through there. Okay. And so what you want to make sure you do is that you just look at CISA to make sure, like, okay, this is a threat that's out there. This is what to look for. This is what you can do. This is the government associated program that if you get attacked, this is who you call. This is basically a great place for businesses to go and visit to make sure that they're up to speed on. So they did a couple other steps that you need to do, and I'll just go over them really quickly because I see that we're almost coming out of time. But next, please. All right. First is business continuity, disaster recovery. Okay. Eliminate the term backup from your vocabulary. Backup is 2010. All right. You need to have a business continuity. Next, please. And what business continuity does, it looks like if you see that red dot again, remember we saw that in the NIST slide there, that's the boom. Okay. That's where the bad things happen. All right. So what happens is that when you have a disaster, let's just say the disaster happens at 11 o'clock, everything is compromised before 11 o'clock, meaning access to your files, your folders, your systems and applications. After the disaster, okay, is everything is down because it's downtime. You don't have access to this. So what business continuity does is that it allows you to continue to go and work, and it eliminates downtime. So in that one punch of business continuity, all right, you eliminate the lost data and everything, and then you also eliminate downtime. That is what business continuity is. Jordan, any thoughts on business continuity?
I mean, other than just it is extremely important. RPO, RTO. One thing that I always find interesting is RPO, RTO is always mentioned, but I never see RLO, which is pretty interesting to me. I mean, I guess it's not as important, but I always see RPO, RTO, never RLO.
What RLL sounds like a band from the '90s. Educate me.
Yeah, can you define those terms for us?
Yeah, so RPO, recovery. Oh man, my brain just died. So RPO is recovery
Point.
point. Thank you. Then
Mhm.
you have RTO, which is recovery time,
Yep.
and then you have RLO, which is recovery level. So kind of based off of like what that diagram is showing. So you have RPO. So that's think of it as like the point in time that you last had your backup. So if you take a backup every 24 hours, your RPO is 24 hours. Your RTO is the amount of time it takes you to get back up. So let's say you have a RTO of 15 minutes. That means once everything goes down, you can get back up in 15 minutes to that last point in time that you were able to get a backup. And then our LO is the level. So think of it as like the minimum requirement you need in order to get back up and running. So think of it even as far as like the hotel scenario that we were in, their recovery level could have been the recovery level objective could have been just getting one of their POS systems enabled or set up so that they could charge cards or even like Panera, same situation.
Jeez, Ashley, I thought we were the stars of this webinar, huh? Oh my God. Jordan coming in hot, man. Like Jordan in the fourth quarter. All right. Well done, Jordan. Thank you very much for that. All right. Let's go next. Multi-factor authentication. Now, I have done this deck 2 million times, and I am going to screw it up every single time. Next one, next slide, please. But this is really really important. Okay, so John Podesta is Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Okay, um, in March of 2016, he gets an email or a text message or something. I don't remember. I think it might have been an email saying that you need to go and update your Google password. Okay. So what he did was he sent that over to one of his assistants. His assistant went and replied back with what the Google password was. All right. So then what he did was he entered in the Google password, except for it wasn't Google that was asking him to update his password. It was a bunch of hackers. So what happened was they got access to the next 5 or 6 months of the campaign of every conversation between Hillary and John and these campaign managers and everything. And you talk about a very contested battle. So finally, in October, they went and they released all the stuff that they put out there. Okay, all the stuff that was in the emails. But we know what America is like today, right? Like we're kind of like very divided when it comes into our news. So you're getting the opponents are taking stuff that was out of context and saying, "Hey, this is what they meant. This is what she did." And you know what? I'm not saying this affected the industry, but was the fact that he did not have two-factor authentication was the reason that the hackers were able to get in there. Were able to get in there. That's a very very important example on there because if they can go and they can attack, arguably the next president of the United States, they can attack us. So again, multi-factor authentication, it's a big pain in the butt. I get it, but it's a necessary use. Next, please. All right, ongoing employee training, okay? Companies that go through ongoing employee training have a 90% chance less of clicking on something bad. Okay. There are modules out there. You could speak to NetGain on that can help you with those modules. They're actually kind of fun. In other words, you could do an exercise where you put marketing versus like human resources and see who is more, have a better cyber posture on there. But again, these modules are something you should talk to your NetGain rep on. If you go to next, please. If not anything, I would strongly, strongly suggest that you go to NetGain's website. And Ashley, I'm going to allow you to talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind.
To those like modules that Matt was mentioning, NetGain offers live training sessions that can be delivered on site at your organization or remotely through like Microsoft Teams. Um, they're interactive and they're led by NetGain security experts. So participants can get practical real-time guidance on spotting phishing emails, handling suspicious activity. We talk about threats when it comes to AI and like the new things that have been coming up. Um, Another great resource on NetGain's website, we publish content all the time. You can sign up to receive alerts when content is released, or just follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those social media outlets.
And all these are free.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they're
Our
free.
cybersecurity awareness trainings are free. They're a great resource to take advantage of. People have found a lot of value in them. We've been running them for a while now, about a year, I'd say.
Yeah, if you want to be a hero to your company, just go onto their blogs, print out some of the articles that they put onto the blogs, and put it into everybody's inbin and say you should read this. That's a great, great way to have a better understanding of what you need to do to improve your cyber posture. Next.
Yeah.
Email and cloud security. Again, the number one way that people get in is through email. You need to have a secure email service. Okay. Again, what you're seeing is a lot of AI that gets infused into the email experience and says this is good and this is bad. It really, really is important. I don't know of one company that does not have some sort of email security. But again, speak to NetGain to find out which solutions that you should be working with to better protect your email. Again, this could be the thing that saves your company. Next, please. All right. This one was an interesting one. This was a 26-year-old analyst that was in Memphis, and he gets an email from a superior that was working for Toyota in Europe, and they asked him to wire $12 million, not once, but three times during the day. That's part of the analyst's job. Okay, that's stuff that he has done before. But what made this one interesting was the person that was asking for it in Europe. He wasn't from Toyota. He did what they call a C-level spoof, where he pretended to be somebody. So you need to be vigilant all the time on who you're receiving emails from and make sure that everything is correct. Again, there's ways to find out. There's ways to hover over addresses, that type of thing. Speak to your friends at NetGain. They can help you do that. But again, this cost Toyota $37 million. And the 26-year-old kid did not lose his job because, again, he thought he was just doing what he was supposed to do. Next.
One thing to add to that is it never hurts to call the person who you
Absolutely.
think emailed you.
Yep. Yep. That's a kind of a two-factor authentication, right? All right. Penetration test. Next. So penetration tests are is basically a much more deeper look into finding out if there is anything wrong. In other words, it's not a scan, it's not a vulnerability. It's actual someone that's going in and they're looking for vulnerability breaches or stuff that's wrong with your company. It's pretty invasive. It is not something that has been into the channel level. That's something that we kind of brought that in there. But what we're seeing is that penetration testing is required for compliance in cyber liability insurance. All right, next, please. And right now, these are the industries that are requiring it. One of the things that we made it for the channel, in other words, for us to go and sell that to NetGain, is you get a quick response. It's very much cost effective as opposed to going hiring another organization where it could be very, very expensive because they just work for enterprise companies. But if you are not performing a penetration testing on your company, you can be suspected or susceptible to attacks that are going to happen to you. So very, very important. Next. Incident response plan. You could next, please. This one is really, really important because a poll that we did just in our own customers says that 71% of companies that don't have an incident response plan, should something happen, which means that what does that come out to 29% of the companies do? This is really, really important. Okay, if you're able to identify a breach, okay, you're able to identify it quicker. 54 days is on the average versus one that has a plan versus one that does not. Very, very important to make sure that if something happens, you need to know the exact protocols on what to do. My job is to tell you to make sure you do it all the systems and all the stuff in place to where you don't get to a breach. But if you do suffer one, make sure you have a system in place on what to do. Because again, once they get in there, then all of a sudden it can completely just go and permeate your entire company. And again, you may not necessarily be able to come back from it. Next. And then lastly, I'm just going to end this on this one really is talk to your friends at NetGain. Again, even a conversation, answer a questionnaire that they may have, invite them to the office. Make sure you know how vulnerable you are to these types of attacks. And you may not be. You may have all the systems in place and everything is great, but you want to make sure that these types of stuff that you're out there, because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and you want to make sure that you are protected on that. Jordan, any final thoughts?
I guess back to like what you said, not about if, but when. I used to jokingly always say there are two types of companies out there: those who've been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So we'll keep it at that. And with that, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you both,
Yeah.
Jordan. Thank you, Ashley. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you so much. We are having a webinar next month on incident response planning in relation to business email compromise. That'll be with Scott Logan, our Director of Security Services, and David Morrow, our Vice President of Strategic Growth. It'll be a good one and give you some actionable tools on incident response planning. So after this, we'll send you all a follow-up email with this webinar recording and some additional resources. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jordan. You all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.
it. All right. Awesome. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Thanks.